What is knocking? Knock knock. Knock knock. Hey everyone, welcome to another video. I'm trying to put this Panda 4x4 back on the road. If you've not seen any of the previous episodes, this is Project Black Betty. It is a 1.2 petrol 4x4 Fiat Panda. These are fantastic little off-road cars. I'm a huge fan. This is the second one that we own as a family. In the previous video, you would have seen that I changed the drop links and cleaned out massive amount of mud from underneath the car. The reason why I changed the drop links is because it had a rattle. The kind of rattle that sounds very much like the drop links are knackered. So I replaced all of those. They did look a little bit worse for wear, and I took it for a test drive, and lo and behold, typically it's not the drop links, something else is knocking. I have noticed that the engine under tray, which on the 4x4 Panda is a metal one, it's not plastic, to almost like an engine protection tray rather than an oil drip tray, if you know what I mean. But I had noticed that the two rear bolts on that were missing, and they had been secured very badly with zip ties. Now I did squeeze a little block of wood in under on the one side just to see whether that was the reason why it was maybe knocking underneath and sounding like a suspension knock. That hasn't worked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the under tray now and take it for another test drive. It's just 2 bolts in this case. Normally it would be 4 bolts. I'm hoping that by removing that I cure the knocking sound. If I don't, I have to figure out where to next. So let's drop that engine under tray, because I also want to give the car a service, a nice fresh oil service. Castrol GTX 5W40C3 oil is what this little sucker needs. So I'm going to do that as well. So let's just crack on. This is the under tray, and you can see at the back here I've got a piece of wood wedged in there, but this still has enough movement to knock like that. So I'm just going to drop that off, and then also have easier access to the oil filter and the sump drain plug as well. A lot of cars lose their under trays. If yours is missing, I suggest you find it, buy one off eBay, because it does a good job of protecting the underside of your engine, not just from impact if it's a metal one like this, but the plastic ones stop all that muck from the road in the winter getting up on the inside. If this is not knocking, it might just be the prop shaft center joint, which is up there, because these bushes here for the gearbox mount and the lower engine mount and the top engine mount, which I inspected earlier, are looking okay. Well, that is the tiny little oil filter, and unfortunately, because of this plate here, I cannot get any of my tools in to loosen that, and that is done up a lot tighter than just hand tight. I now have to find another tool, probably a strap kind, that will go around here to help me loosen this. It just needs to be cracked and then I can open it. But I've got the oil drain plug back on, drained out all the oil, which is nice and black, and I have the Castrol Magnatech ready to go back on with a new Phoebe filter. But I'm not putting this in, of course, until I have got that offending item off. 5-minute jobs, eh? So ordinarily a claw tool like this would work really well for most size oil filters. This will get small enough to move that filter, but I cannot get it in there. Well, believe it or not, after about 10 minutes of hammering on that oil filter, I have finally broken the seal between it and the housing. As you can see, it's just dripping a little bit over there, and it has started to shift. I cannot believe that this was put on so tight. It is really not necessary. Let me show you what I mean. I mean, that is not even shifting it. I've almost done a revolution, but it is still as tight as hell. Right, that should be enough now. Holy smokes. That honestly is the tightest oil filter I have ever come across. That is what an oil filter housing looks like with the oil filter off. There's a threaded portion over there, like a threaded rod, that the oil filter screws onto. Quite simple, really. That is the new oil filter on, and as you can see, all you need to do is tighten it up by hand. Just put a little bit of oil around the seal that's on the oil filter, and then put it in place and screw it on. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. And then just use your hands to tighten it up. It doesn't need to be any tighter than that. Now I can add some fresh oil. Yeah. And that is the old oil and mangled oil filter. I don't really have a lot of words to say about this, except that a new oil filler cap is probably less than a tenner. Why would you drive screws into it? I just don't know. I don't know, words fail me right now. All you need to do is buy another one of these. Less than 10 quid. It's probably the easiest job in the world. Go on eBay and buy one. Job done. Now for some fresh Magnatech. So this little engine, 1.2 petrol Fiat engine, takes 2.8 liters of oil, so just under 3 liters of oil. So when you buy a 5-liter canister of oil like this, it has markings on the side. That's obviously 5 liters up there. If I take away 3, it's 2 liters, but you don't want to overfill your oil. So I'm going to go for 2.5, let it settle, and then top it up. Make sure that this is level when you check this out. Remove the oil filler cap, and then get yourself a little plastic funnel, otherwise you will get oil all over your engine. Remember, it's not a competition. Now some oil cans come with an extractable nozzle. This one doesn't, so I'm using just a little oil funnel, or just a little funnel here. You can buy them in packs from any number of places, and then all you need to do is hold it sideways. It's always easier to do it like that, and then just gently pour it in. Now of course, don't add oil unless you've put your sump plug back in, because otherwise it'll just be draining straight out the bottom and onto your driveway. Now, because this car is up on ramps, it's at an angle, and you want to measure your oil with the dipstick when it's on flat ground. Put the oil cap back on. Now I've got that much left to top up in the future. Now the oil dipstick will be this red thing at the back of the engine. Now what I've found with a lot of small engines is that often the dipstick is a little bit difficult to read. But basically at the bottom of your dipstick, you'll have this little section over here, and basically you want your oil level to be between the bottom and the top. If you don't registering any oil, you're in trouble. Top it up immediately. Don't worry about changing the oil filter, just get oil in your engine, because otherwise you're going to have a very expensive repair or even a write-off, because your engine will seize with no oil. And what you want is never more than the maximum with oil, because that blows the seals and creates all sorts of problems. You want it sitting somewhere between half and the top comfortably when it's cold. Now, as you can see, I've removed the air box with the air filter, and I've exposed the throttle body here, which is absolutely covered in oil. This is not uncommon for a modern car, because the manufacturers feed oil vapor back into the air intake to apparently help with emissions or something like that, and basically it just makes a hell of a mess over time. So what I want to do is clean up this throttle body before I put the airbox back on, because I've also noticed that the airbox is not sitting nicely and securely on here either. These little mounts seem to have broken, so I'm just going to be using some brake and parts cleaner. I want to get all the oil residue off these connectors that are around the throttle body. This parts cleaner will dry actually very quickly. Now bear in mind, when you start up for the first time, it's going to get excited, because there's now what is effectively some kind of alcohol inside there. So I'm going to try and extract as much of it as I can. It's kind of like quick start. When you spray quick start into an air intake, it gives you that quick shot to start the engine when it's being lazy. If you want to know how we fixed the misfire problem on this car, go and check out one of the previous episodes. There will be a link in the description. So I bought this Fiat Panda 4x4 as spares or repairs because it had a misfire problem. So go and check out the video and see how we fixed that. Well, good. So anyway, that's nice and clean now, and I can put the airbox back on. But first I'm going to give that a bit of a clean. Spray liberally. Now, on these Pandas and other Fiats using this engine, there is a little air hose, which oil vapor hose here, which has got a plug onto the bottom like that. Line up these things and push it home, but it's not very secure at this stage. Right, that needs copper slip. Got a bit of copper slip on there, so now when I screw that bolt in, it's not going to make life difficult when it's come out. Right, that's good enough. Let's give it a few moments and then fire it up. Right, let's take Black Betty for a quick whiz around the block and see if I have cured the knock. Oh no, still there. Oh, what is that? Must be the prop shaft. Anyway, back to the ramps.